Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Downtown Eastside Heart of the City Festival. My name is Terry Hunter, and I'm the Executive Director of Vancouver Moving Theatre, which I co-founded with Savannah Walling, my partner, in 1983. And here in the Downtown Eastside, in Chinatown in particular. And we also produced the Downtown Eastside Heart of the City Festival, which was launched in 2004 in partnership with the Carnegie Community Center and the Association of United Ukrainian Canadians, and over 50 partners that work with us, one of which is Sharon Callis and her Earth Hand Gleaners, who are also based here in the Downtown East Side. And the Downtown East Side is situated on the unceded homeland of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, to which we give great thanks and gratitude for being able to live and work on their lands. And we also express our gratitude to them for all the work that they're doing to protect the land and the waters on which we live and on which we depend. Thank you to our three local nations for that work and for allowing us to be on their territory. It's my real distinct pleasure to welcome a really fantastic artist and a friend of mine, Sharon Callis from Earth Hand Gleaners. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Terry. It's nice to be here.
And I'm very
We are in our virtual, we're probably 20 blocks away from each other.
Yes, and you also are very connected to the land, and the work that you're doing in the community is really greatly appreciated, because you're really taking a community that's very urban and doing work that connects us to not only the land itself, but also to the plants and to the biological heritage. That may not be a correct term, but really connecting us to the indigenousness of this land and the work that you're doing with the First Nations artists from this community and beyond. And I'm really looking forward to this video. I'm going to pass it off to you to set it up. I did want to let the audience know, who are listening online, welcome and thank you for joining us, that there is a chat function, and do sign up for that. And Sharon's video is about an hour long. And after the video is over, we'll have a Q&A, and I'll be talking with Sharon about her work, and we'll also be able to field the questions to Sharon. So put them in the chat box, and then I'll be able to relay them to Sharon. So Sharon, if you could do this pleasure now of setting this video up, and then we'll launch into watching the video together.
Awesome. So this is 6 women, myself and 5 others, who have been guild leaders. So guilds were something we came up with as an idea, going from our land-based learning to what did we do online together? How do we still continue to learn? And that really became my big thing, is how do we, like, rethinking how we learn together. And that is what has given all of us strength, as well as going out and being able to have our hands in the soil. And so it was a lovely moment to be able to have reason to bring us together to just have a conversation about those guilds and what that looks like. And so that's what the conversation is. That is 6 women. Now, when I was recording, this is the year of learning curves. And with Zoom, I had assumed that I would have like the Brady Bunch, where you had all of our heads talking. And that's not how it recorded. It actually recorded as just the person speaking. So it was a little disconcerting for me when I saw that. Hopefully that isn't an issue. You'll be able to follow through and meet all of the people as we're each speaking. So I'm going to turn over to your tech people to roll that little recording as they can, and take it from there. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us, people that are signing in and watching this live. My name is Sharon Callis, and I'm with Earth Hand Gleaners Society. And I'd like to start by acknowledging we are here on the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish and the Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh people. And we are all coming from different places and online somehow in this ephemeral space that we're sharing. And Heart of the City Festival, online this year, very different reality for everybody. This is the first time, of course, Heart of the City has done this. In the past, Earth Hand has participated. We manage plantings and a green space in Trillium Park. And as an organization, our mandate is basically asking the question, how do we be makers without first being consumers? And that's a piece of what we've always brought to the work that we do with Heart of the City Festival. When I was asked to do something for Heart of the City online this year around what gives us strength, and I thought about what gives me strength, I immediately thought of this incredible group of women who are a snippet of the people that have been working with us, taking what we do, connecting to the land and teaching skills and taking that somehow online. So we have this wonderful conversation that we're going to have for the next hour, recording on Thursday evening, and it's going to be broadcast in, I think, about 10 days time in the afternoon. So thank you everybody for joining here. I think I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Janie, who's to my left.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janie Chang, and I am an artist and ancestral skills educator. I call Chechilhuic, or the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh territory, my home now, but my ancestors come from Hong Kong and China. So I'm a long ways away from where my ancestors come from. But one of the things that connects me to this land and helps me to call it home is just to work with materials from the land as much as possible. And in the work that I do, I love to share those teachings and pass them along to other people so that they can have opportunities to connect to the land as well. So some of the work that I've been doing with Earth Hand has given me the opportunity to do that. And then I also do that outside of Earth Hand as well, and work with specifically with Squamish Nation little ones, 4 to 7-year-olds, teaching them earth-based skills. Right now, we're in the middle of day 4 of hide camp, tanning deer hides. So it's really exciting to be here tonight, and thank you so much for the invitation for this conversation.
Janie, what's your handwork that you've got tonight while we're chatting? Can you hold that up?
Well, I was gonna soften a piece of fish leather, because fish leather making, fish skin tanning is my absolute passion. But I thought I would pick up this hat that I haven't finished yet. And this is actually a fish leather hat that I'm weaving. Starting with the top, I've been twining, and I've left it for a while. And because it wasn't going the way I wanted to, so I needed to back it up a little and undo some of it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to work with the shape a little bit better and hopefully finish it soon.
Awesome. I'm just going to pin you there so people can see. Hold it up a little bit more again. Beautiful.
There.
And that's all from salmon leather.
Yes.
Fantastic. Right. Thanks, Janie. Lori.
Oh, hi, everyone. And thank you for inviting me to participate here today with all these beautiful spirits, and so grateful to be living on this part of the world that with all our Coast Salish neighbors, and what a gift that we have clean water and fresh air and all this abundance around us. I love to share about wild, native, and medicinal plants, and really help people to remember our relationships, our practices of reciprocity, our responsibility, who we are as the two-leggeds on this land. And so grateful to call it my home, even though this is not where my ancestors are from, as so many of us have come to share what we know here, and in the best way that we possibly can. And I've been outdoors teaching as whenever I can, or on Zoom, and putting my hands in the earth and caretaking a medicine wheel garden so I can keep passing on our knowledge and help everyone to remember this is, you know, who we are, right? We all come from the land, wherever our stories might be from. So, and the more we have diversity of the human family and plants and animals, insects, birds, and all that other amazing abundance around us, then we can move forward through anything that comes our way. So yeah, it's about a handmade life, my friends, really.
Yes.
It's all going back to a handmade life.
Lori, can you hold up what you're working on there?
Oh, well, and thank goodness it's legal now, but this, I've got someone gifted me in my medicine wheel garden 2 cannabis plants this summer. And I thought, wow, what do I do with this? Like, how do I play and get to know this other plant that brings us beautiful medicine, you know, whether for healing with our pain, you know, all kinds of, psychoactive properties, you name it. So I'm going to infuse this and make some beautiful salves, you know, melt down some beeswax.
And keep the stalks, because there's fiber in the stalks.
Oh, okay.
Sorry
great.
to interrupt, but there's
fiber
there too.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I really don't know that much about cannabis, growing cannabis, and you know, who is this incredible plant that, my goodness, what I give you a little piece of history. When the colonists were all coming here, they were told they had to cut down the forest to grow hemp so they could make cordage and make sails for the sailing boat so that they could continue to go around the planet, the globe, and colonize every indigenous land on our planet. So really interesting history, my friends.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori. And I am trying to unpin you now, and that's not happening easily. There we go. Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Yeah, I'm really honored to be here. And so my name is Sarah Ross, and I recently moved out of East Van, and now I live in Burnaby Heights, which is the traditional and unceded ancestral territory of Tsleil-Waututh people primarily. And anyway, my primary relationship is with Tsleil-Waututh as the keepers of the inlet. The ones who are leading the way in protecting the waters here and the land. So so with Earth Hand, and I guess one of my main passions, nature connection is at the heart of what I teach and what I practice, but I do that primarily through the ancient language of the birds, which is birds are all around us all the time, right? And they fly through our cities, and by learning how to pay attention to them, these layers of connection and meaning are revealed, I believe, to us. And I also do foraging, and that's another thing I've been teaching with Earth Hand is nature connection through plants and medicine plants, but food plants primarily. I feed my family a lot with what I harvest from the neighborhood where I live. And I'm working on some of that right now. I'll just show you. I've got I hope you can see that, my acorns that I'm in the middle of shelling. Yeah, and then they turn out to be, like, these ones are dried. And so then there's the processes where I have to use water to leach out the bitter tannins. And then I can dry them and grind them and use them as flour, and they're, really nutritious. So, and I think most people's ancestors have eaten acorns in the past, long ago. So it's definitely an important food. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So, hi, I'm Amy. I'm really, it's such an honor to be part of a group like this. And so thanks to all of you. It's great to be part of a group that shares a sort of purpose of connecting and also making and kind of questioning and improving things, whether it's like the inner world close to home or like the bigger outer world. But I read the Heart of the City the catalog of all the events, and I was just really blown away. It's the 17th year of the Heart of the City Festival, and I'm a Vancouver born and bred person. I've lived in Strathcona here since about 1990. I got my first house when I moved out of home here, and then I've lived about 5 different places here. I ride a bike to get around mostly, and bicycling has been a big part of my life, as has been like making things and designing and problem solving. So I sort of feel like part of what I do is like I think I'm kind of an artist, but I'm kind of a problem solver, but just like a human being. And I feel like we all kind of in our own way, we try to get better all the time at the things that we care about. And so I'm just always doing that. But generally speaking, you'll see me doing that. I'll ride by on my bike, or I have this Make Mobile. So I have a arts and crafts studio on a bike, and I'll set up in the park and do some arts and crafts. Hopefully that's more and more making things in public places is kind of my MO. And I've been really fortunate to be artist in residence with Earth Hand this past year. And so I've learned a lot of things from Sharon and from Serena and from Sarah and from Janie and Lori. I haven't been able to be in a class with you this year, but I feel like I'd love to learn some things from you, because you've got tons going on. Anyway, that's a bit about me.
Can you hold up what you're working on there? And
I'm just knitting some socks. I bought some store-bought wool from a BC company called Black Cat, and it's called Deadpool Kills, this color. And so I'm just knitting socks, because in the wintertime, it's just cozy to sit around, knit socks. And then it's like my riches in my life is I have really nice socks, and I can have cozy feet whenever I want.
that's smart. It's good planning. Very good planning.
Yeah,
Well,
and really, like, I'm not a complicated knitter. This is just, you learn to just knit, and it's all the, yeah. You could do it too.
That's awesome. Serena.
Hey,
Serena.
hi everyone. I'm Serena. So I think all of you were born in Canada, right? Most of you. Yeah. So I wasn't born here. I was born in Goa, India. That's the West Coast. And then I was brought up in Australia, in Sydney on the East Coast. And now I've been living here in Vancouver on the West Coast again. And I love it. It's only 15 years, but I'm still just getting to know this land. And I love it so much. So I live in Point Grey, Musqueam territory. That's, on the way to UBC. And I homeschool my 3 boys, always been in that world, not just, during COVID times, like a lot of other people. And those boys live outdoors mainly. So naturally, my passions have gone outdoors too. All our crafts, all our school learning, most of it's done outdoors, in nature, using nature, everything it has to offer. So I thanks to Earth Hand Gleaners and a few other things I've done, I'm considering myself a natural dyer and a bit of a basket case as well, a weaver. And oh man, we spend so much time outdoors just watching everything changing and what the plants have to offer, and just harvesting as they change, and different times they offer different things. So just so nice. We lived here so long, but I just find new things all the time in this Jericho East Beach Park, and I haven't been around very much the last 6 months. So I literally, it's within kilometers walking distance and stuff. So yeah. It's been amazing getting to know the details in the side streets, getting to know the trees. especially the walnuts and the acorns. It's just been unbelievable. So the best thing, I ran the Kitchen Dyers Guild. Kitchen Dyers Guild, yes. It's still a
I think
mouthful.
that's what we called it.
Guys Guild. I mean, the whole point of that guild was to use whatever we had in our houses, you know, in our kitchens, whatever we had in our backyards and alleyways, on the streets, on our walks. We didn't have to go to the shops to buy. That was the whole point. And I hope I shared enough with people to give them some tools. You know, you really, really didn't need, you could just take the acorns from the ground and the sumac leaves, the walnuts. There was so much around. And then, of course, in your kitchens too, anything you had, everything you used for baking, even the modifiers, you could use your washing soda. And it's just, you know, instead of soda ash, there's so much. And yeah, so I hope everybody had a really good time.
Oh, I can't imagine they wouldn't. What have you got to work on tonight? Can you hold up and show?
Oh yeah, so one of the biggest things I hopefully imparted was just materials this size, or you know, materials this size. Seriously, I just told people not, because a lot of people who joined the guild were beginners too, and they were too scared to try anything. And I didn't want to scare them. You didn't need huge fancy pots. I literally showed them how to do all their dyes in really small pots that you could get at the thrift store. Yeah, so just showing all my own samples, even the shibori we did last weekend, you know, things like, I mean, I showed them, I think 10 ways of doing shibori.
Awesome.
With small pieces of cotton like that. Bed sheet torn apart, right? It's just really nice. So
Fantastic.
everybody can do it. And the pot, we literally folded in the class and I put it in the pot, and the pot was this small, and I showed them how small it was. So it's not scary for anybody, and everybody can do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, this year is kind of crazy, hey? I'm, you know, thinking a lot about what this year has been like, and you know, we kind of think we've adjusted, and then there's something else that we're having to readjust, and all of these pieces that keep getting layered on top. And something that I have really sat with, so I'm in Janie's salmon gifts from the Salmon Guild, and I'm working on a piece of salmon leather that I've been tanning. So I'm just kind of softening that tonight with some coconut oil. And it was tanned with tea that Janie had provided. So something that really struck me from the Gifts from the Salmon Guild that came up, and I think our first session together, was how salmon go through this process of continual change and rising to the challenge. They start off as freshwater fish, and then they suddenly have to become saltwater fish. And then after they figured that out, they have to return to being freshwater fish. And that just really struck me, because we're living in this way right now where as soon as we think we've got a handle on stuff again, there's something else that's shifting. It's just this kind of continual changing emotional and physical and you know, that everything is in constant flux. And so I just keep remembering the salmon, and that's been something that it's like this is, we all as human beings, we share that ability for change. We're just very accustomed to having some level of control, and being able to give that up and be able to respond and change with what comes our way. And I always, in my head, something I always come back to is, how do I do it with grace? How do I do it? So even if I'm freaking out on the inside, at least on the outside, if I can project grace and other people don't know that I'm freaking out, then maybe if I can fool others, I'll fool myself. I don't know. I think there's an element to that, but I'd love to, so all of us, and I don't know if it's totally clear in how we've introduced what we're all doing, but essentially in how Earthhand had to kind of take all of these programs. I had 75 programs I was so proud of that I'd crafted, and I'd written descriptions, and I'd put them all on the internet with pretty pictures, and people could register, and everything was all set to roll out. And then it just kind of threw that out. And this notion of rethinking how we learn together. and how do we be together became really the piece to try and figure out. And so we've done a lot of different things, but all of us have been facilitators of a guild where we have been paid a very, very modest stipend by participants to essentially be online twice a month and be available for that designated hour and a half to share what we were already doing in our daily practice and in our lived existence, be it in the foraging and the medicine making or the felting and the various studio projects, and kind of daylighting that. And I realized the other day, it's like we're coaches more than teachers. It's more like we're a coach and we're just telling people, no, run faster. Okay, slow down a little bit, save a little bit of your energy. You know, there's this kind of, so we've kind of become coaches for these very intentional learning clubs, I think is a good way to put that. So everybody has had a different one that they have facilitated that have been, I think all of them have been 3 months. So we gathered with kind of 6 sessions over those 3 months online. And I'd love to just kind of open it up a little bit to conversation on if there were things that were really successful or really hard that we struggled with, that surprised us. Does anybody want to speak to that right off the top? And I'm going to just pin you. Anybody that wants to like jump in on that guild experience? Zarina, yeah, hang on. So you're going to have to unmute Zarina.
Okay. Yeah, one of the most surprising things, I guess if we had met face to face, you know, things would have been slower in questions and people just, you know, meeting weekly or whatever it was we would meet with our Dyers Guild co-op. I can't remember how many times we met, but I think we used to meet and then we had the gardening and things like that. So people were slower in asking their questions, but it seemed to me like when we met for twice a month, everybody would keep everything bottled inside and during the guild just go blah. Like they would just burst out all their questions, and it was pretty intense. You know, I had 10 of us in the.
You had the biggest guild. You had the biggest guild of everybody.
Right, but I think what it was, yeah, everybody was so hungry, and a lot of beginners who had no idea and they just wanted something to do. And I know it's the times too. You know, everybody's feeling stressed. You can't go out and do your courses and workshops and all the free stuff that's around. So yeah, that was the biggest surprise. I wasn't expecting that intense asking for knowledge and, you know, tools to work with that.
And that was because you were really just starting your teaching journey. And this is one of the things I love about how you are with us, Zarina, is that you came to us as a student, as somebody that was just like a community keener, really anxious to engage and to learn. And you've been taking that and kind of infiltrating the homeschool community that you work with and teaching all of the things that you're learning to your own children and to other children as well. But this was really, this was a radical shift and a big, like, this was a huge hurdle for you because there's the technical of being online and trying to moderate that world, as well as just teaching and being able to sort of even have that comfort within your own ability to say, no, that's not going to be covered in this class, and trying to kind of learn your own, how much you can share and what's reasonable or not reasonable.
Yeah, it might take a few more goes to learn to say no. But yeah, definitely, it was such a steep learning curve for me. You know, mainly because it was a group of adults and all coming from similar backgrounds, but wanting, you know, really wanting to know a pretty big skill, natural dyeing. What I was doing was just trying to scale it down, you know, and budget, you know, budget conscious and all that, but also doing it on Zoom. That was learning as well. I left a few people in the waiting room, so that was too bad. Oops. Yes, oops. But I did record the sessions and that went okay, but that wasn't, you know, it's just learning, right?
Yeah, and you know, this is another thing that we're all in this world now of, we just need to be kind to one another and be generous and understanding and realize that everybody is just kind of pushing within their capacity, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Would you do it again? Now that we're recording, is this a good time to ask? Will you teach it again, Zarina?
Ask me again in the spring, whenever
Yeah.
and everybody's feeling fresh.
Fair enough. Does anyone else want to speak to what that experience has been like for, yeah, I was going to say Sarah or Lori, because you've both been doing less studio-based and more of the kind of land-based work. Yeah, you're still muted there, Sarah.
Okay, well, wait till she unmutes you, or she unmutes.
Sorry.
Well, I would say my biggest challenge was just that, because my computer's getting old, was the recording to make sure if somebody had missed, you know, to make sure I took that file and did the we transfer and then got their emails and sent them out. Just
Yeah.
that kind of, you know, just the technical stuff,
Yeah.
right? The administration. And because I had so many photos already and I put presentations together for like professional development days,
Yeah.
that was already on the computer. It was really actually quite easy to jump into. And, you know, I've been now teaching, I guess, 7 years. So that aspect was quite easy. But I just wanted to mention a couple of things when everybody else was kind of introducing. So Sarah, are you putting your chestnuts in, or your acorns, like in the back of the toilet bowl, like for flushing for the water? Because it takes a lot of water to get the tannins out, right? Am I right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I grind them and soak them in a big jar,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I change the water every day, and it just takes about 5 days.
Oh,
with the
because you
acorns.
ground them up
Yeah, they're
first.
ground up. Yeah.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. And Amy.
But first of all, hang on. I need to go back.
Okay.
You put them in the back of a toilet bowl. That's a thing. Because I know
Well,
everybody else is
Oh,
wondering.
no, I haven't. That's what I heard, you know, that you
Okay.
can leave them in there. But if you're making them small, like Sarah just said,
Yeah.
then it won't take as much water to
Yeah.
actually take the tannins out. Like that makes total
Yeah.
sense.
I
Yeah.
think traditionally it would have been in the river. You would have
Right,
like put
exactly.
it in the river for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with Amy, I'd be into doing trade because, you know, Sharon, what you've got me thinking about in your conversation is we're all having to adapt, and we're having these changes and these adaptions in a gentle way almost, right? It's like, okay, quiet, slow down, pay attention. What do you want to learn? Think about your values. Oh, going back to a handmade life, like you said, let's not be consumers.
Yeah.
Right? Let's be creators, and
Yeah.
let's be in relationship to our living world in this creation. So Amy, I'd be into doing trade for some socks because I love wool socks, hand knitted wool socks, or maybe even taking lessons. And Zarina, I'm noticing the parks have been cutting back the blackberry bushes, and the dye of the blackberry root is supposed to be amazing. So anyways, you know, it's like, this is what I love, is when we can get together, we
Yeah.
share information and we, you know, help each other. Regardless of what we're doing, we just help each other. And like you said, Sharon, is this kindness. So you can see these are all practices taking us into our future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Sarah, do you want to speak to?
Yeah, I
Your-
do. There was, I think, one surprise, although it wasn't a surprise. And Lori, I think I first experienced this actually in a different session that you were hosting, and it's definitely one of my passions. I found in our guild, it provided a place for us to connect on a personal level. So we brought our hearts, you know, and we spoke to what we were going through, what life was like for us right now. And so yes, there was content, but because mine was about connecting with the places where we each we're all in different places. So I basically had to translate all of the sensory school stuff, like hearing, sight, taste, and like a sense meditation. So I gave people exercises to go out into their land, into their place, and to just notice what was around them. So it wasn't like I didn't have as much skill. We did some skill sharing for sure, but having that personal connection, building and building over the weeks was a treat. And it fills me up so much, you know. He's seeing people's hearts and trying to create that safe container for a level of honest and real connection. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sarah, you've got an earring that I think is hitting your mic.
Oh, nasty.
Yeah. I
There
think
we
it's
go.
just, there we go. Perfect.
Thank you. Great. I'll hold that up here. Yeah. And, you know, another thing that's been interesting for me with taking this online, with bird language, when I teach bird language, you know, it's important to go somewhere where there are birds and there's not that much ambient sound. So you want to be in the forest, ideally, or even a park. But with online, yeah, like Lori, you were saying you have pictures and stuff. I can bring photos of birds that are way more dynamic, that someone, you know, with one of those huge lenses, those giant lenses, I can show those photos and share them so that we have, you know, this like real drama of the birds that you might not see unless you're really lucky on your first time out, you know, studying bird language. So I found using online was actually a really nice way to teach. Yeah, and then I think if I would combine those two, like the bird language, because I haven't done a guild with bird language yet, but if I was going to combine the two styles, then to give people homework to go out and do their bird sits or their bird connection time, and then coming back and bringing it to the personal connection piece as well, would be just like, that's where you really get the juicy learning and the juicy connection. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Next spring, Sarah.
Oh, it starts in February.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it totally does. Yeah.
Thank you. Amy.
Unmute.
Can you talk about?
Yes. So I was hosting the Wet Felting Guild, and I had probably the smallest guild. I had a very small mini guild, but I like to think that small is beautiful. And what I was looking forward to about our group was sort of like a regular meeting time where we could work together and sort of maybe share some direction in our felting work. I have here some slippers. These are the last things that I made in Felting Guild. I think I've made 3 pairs of slippers, just kind of like experimenting with slipper things. Wet felting is something that you do with animal fiber. So wool is generally a wet felting thing, and then you get it wet and you roll it, you agitate the wool, and you make a fabric out of it. Here's another thing that we made too. Sorry, show and tell, some arm warmers that you stick on your arms. And so basically, I think I kind of got what I wanted out of the Wet Felting Guild, which was sort of a regular time and place to connect with other people who are engaged in wet felting. And I often don't feel like a teacher. I often just, okay, I'll show up and facilitate the activity. And I can definitely, I have some experience and I can offer some of my experience, but I kind of feel like, you know what, other people have a lot of experience too. So that was pretty evident in my guild, that the other people in the guild had lots to contribute, and they have, you know, lots of experience in making things and teaching in other areas and stuff. So yeah, I would definitely do it again, because I feel like there's something kind of lonely about just making things by yourself and then taking a picture and posting it on the internet. But when you actually meet up with other people in a sort of like a little discrete hour and a half of time, it was every 2 weeks, it's kind of nice. You have a little date and you do a little crafting, and you have some chats and you check in about what's going on in life. So it was very good. I would definitely do it again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that for me with the Fiber Guild, oh, I'm having so many troubles trying to get our viewing sorted out here.
That's fine.
And view, there we go. Gallery view again. Yeah, so a couple of things for me that have come up before I ask you, Janie, for your reflections on the Guild. That Lori referenced about being human, and your reference about being a teacher or not being a teacher. And that was like, for me in this, was like, well, what am I needing right now? I'm feeling adrift. I'm feeling like my day timer and my calendar means nothing anymore. I don't have a sense of like one day, is it Tuesday or is it Sunday? And does it really matter? And, you know, as an artist, my life has always been a bit sketchy for that. Anyway, it doesn't follow a Monday to Friday rhythm, but this year has been really completely bizarre. And so having something that it's like, oh, Tuesday nights is the Salmon Guild. That's when I'm doing this. And Thursday afternoons, I'm online for this thing. And having those points in my calendar has been really grounding. I've needed that as kind of a baseline, but that community check-in, it's like having a pool buddy or a running partner of like, oh, I am going to now, this time is carved out for this activity that otherwise I can be really resistant to spending time in the studio or to allowing myself to make space on my dining room table to take over for that craft. Can be really challenging, right? And so when I've kind of told others I'm going to be somewhere, even if it's at home, just in front of my computer with the camera turned on, I know I have to be doing that thing that I'm really going to love at that particular time. And that community accountability has been huge. And the notion of just being able to be human and not be a teacher was also, I think, a really big driving force in all of the work that has happened that we've done this year. It's come about from myself and from you and others that we work with that have been like, well, how are we dealing with this? And this really sucks. How do I sort this out? And it's like, well, let's do it together. Let's be online and have that happen together. And that has been such an unbelievable way to try and connect us all that I'm so thankful we've been able to do. Janie, you have taken off with your salmon leather as an online class that you have been having like international, like it's just, I know you were already doing a lot around the province where you were driving everywhere, and now it's just all online, which is really amazing and beautiful to be kind of witness to. Can you talk about what this has been like for you in going online and taking this kind of land skill
Yeah,
to
it's
internet?
so, I mean, first of all, I never ever thought I would be a fish skin leather teacher. Second of all, I never ever thought that I would teach fish skin tanning virtually. And if you'd have asked me this before the pandemic, I would have said like, no way, it's so sensory and you need things and you need to be able to see, you know, up close and personal what I'm doing. And then of course things changed and I had to pivot and create my own income. So it's actually been such an incredibly positive experience going virtual with my experiential and sensory teachings. And as Sarah was saying, it's like, it's really forced me to think descriptively. So I ask all of my students to really engage their senses, and we actually go through them all as we're engaging in the fish tanning process. And it's really challenged me to get more specific and focused and just hone in on the art of teaching and in different ways as well. So I've been so grateful for that. And then as you mentioned, yes, like I never imagined I would reach international audiences. It's always just been local. If I can't get to you physically, then sorry, I can't teach you unless you buy me a plane ticket to come and see you. But now I'm quite blown away. I've had students from Prague and Australia and the UK, and right now I have one from Iceland, from Norway, and I just can't even believe it. And a huge contingent from Alaska too.
Yeah.
Probably had about 20 students from Alaska over the last number of classes. And my connections have just grown exponentially through those connections.
Yeah.
And so I've been so grateful for the growth in the community of fish skin tanners, because it's kind of a niche thing. Just a little bit. And now there's this big growing community of people who are so passionate about doing it together. So I started a Facebook group called Adventures in Fish Skin Tanning, where people can just share their work and ask questions and, just know that they're not alone in this work that they're doing. So that has been so fun for me. And it makes me wonder what else is possible to do virtually. And even though it's virtual and we're not in the same room, I really believe that there's ways to facilitate the experience so that you truly connect, so that people have a voice, people can express a little bit about who they are, and all of those Hollywood square boxes can be connections all over the place. And I've had people connect in ways that I never expected. The 6 degrees of separation, where someone in another country has said, oh, I actually, we know somebody, or we took this class together, and it's really been incredible. So it kind of reinforces for me how small the world is, especially in the kind of skills that we're practicing. But I've just been witness to the growth of such beautiful community, and all centered around the salmon and the teachings of the salmon. And it's really given me a lot of strength throughout this whole pandemic. And I have to say, I haven't suffered a whole lot because of that. Like, it's really lifted up my spirits, and it's given me some creative accountability too, to make things so that I can connect with other people in this community. So it's been really, really wonderful. It's been a silver lining for sure.
Yeah.
Of the pandemic, and going virtual.
That's fantastic. I had the one experience to that that really resonates for me was we have this event that we normally would go down to. It's the Ancestral Skills Gathering, Echoes in Time in Oregon, that has been, Serena goes and Janie goes, and that's been like my kind of family reunion is how I think of it. This would have been my 5th year going. And, by beginning of April, it was starting to be really clear that that was not going to happen. And I felt this major panic. I was quite gutted. Like, how am I not going to see those people? And, I ended up having a series of Zoom conversations and doing this with some of the kind of key people down there that I would normally connect with. But I also just thought, well, what is it that community feeds for me? What is it that I really enjoy from that? And one of the pieces was having a chance to connect with other skill holders that I would not normally, that are not in kind of our Vancouver landscape. So I decided on a whim to reach out to somebody that I really admire as a skill holder, who is in the UK, to Alan Brown, who's kind of the host of the Nettles for Textiles Facebook page. And anybody who's a nettle geek has kind of seen the videos of him processing nettle, and everybody knows his dog Bonnie, who's kind of the highlight of the video. Anyway, I reached out to him through Instagram. We follow each other, and it was like, hey, would you be interested in game to have a Zoom studio session with me where we can just talk nettle while we're processing nettles together, and I'll record it and offer it as an online class for the Echoes online version? And he was totally game. He was very lovely about it, even though he's not a computer person, and his Zoom has not been something he's embraced to the level we have. Anyway, we had this lovely 2-hour conversation that could have been 6 hours. Both of us were kind of, I think he texted afterwards and said, I'm feeling really bereft once our conversation ended. And it was, so realizing now that the change that's happened in the world, where things, as you said, Janie, that would not have seemed possible 10 months ago, now it's a new reality. And now those opportunities are there. And I think that's a piece that's really exciting to try and hold and work towards. And I know this is a big part of what Amy and I talk a lot about is, how do we build the world we want to live in? How do we make what we have now better? Because there was a lot that was broken, and it's a really painful time to be in this right now. It's a time of birth. It's dangerous and it's painful. And what's coming through that? How are we all going to come out of that? And so I keep coming back to, what are the little moments that I can do within my own kind of community of how do we support each other, and how do we use this technology that I honestly loathe. If it wasn't for these moments, I am not a computer fan, but how do we use it to our betterment, and so that we can stay connected? Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity that we have to just reframe and rethink.
And Sharon, I just want to
Yeah.
add a little bit there in terms of what it does is it expands everyone's consciousness here, right? Like all of a sudden you've got people all over the world that are, zooming in and recognize the living world, sustains us, right?
Yeah.
And something I heard the other day with Robin Wall Kimmer on a Zoom call with her and David Suzuki and Miles Richardson and Elder Dave Kershane and Nancy Turner, where, Robin mentioned, what is it that you love so much you cannot lose? And so if you foster a love of plants and textiles and wools and salmon and, all the trees and all the importance of our whole ecosystem, then you're going to find a voice here to protect it going into the future. And, maybe this time is about just waking us up. And all of a sudden the technology is allowing these conversations to go farther. So it's not just here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's worldwide, right? Yeah. What a beautiful gift that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zarina.
Yeah, going from there, what Sharon was saying, these last few months, I mean, I've followed some people that are amazing, unbelievable skill holders, and on Instagram, and they're all over the world. But the last 6 months, I've actually reached out to people. I've had the guts to finally just dare myself and reach out, and they're just like me,
Yeah.
and they reply, and you're like, what? This person replied, with details and such friendliness. And it's been really amazing to do that, to reach out to amazing skill holders who you wouldn't normally dare in another world. And what Janie was saying about accountability, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's been unbelievable. Like every guild, yeah, Sarah saying, yeah. I've actually made time for myself to actually do some, all these samples that I do to show people. And what I'm doing, Sharon, to answer your question, is all those little cloths I'm now cutting up and making into something big, because there's a lot of little clots. But yeah, the accountability even to ourselves, I've really enjoyed just that's been the best part of this whole few months, even on the guild, and the last 6 months through everything, is having time and making time to do those things that I really, really love. So.
And it's a time for bold and brave action. Like you're saying that you were kind of like, okay, I'm going to reach out. And it's like, contact these people that actually intimidate me, and then realizing that of course they're human. But yeah, that notion of just being brave and being bold in our actions.
Yeah. It came so naturally to do it. It just seemed time, it just seemed the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I find too, I'm really, I'm practicing my no, or my noga, as Amy would say. Noga is very good. And what have I taught you, Zarina, about capacity? Do you want to practice it now? Do you want to say it?
It's out of my capacity.
There you go. You know, and I like something I thought about is, you know, on planes where they give you the spiel. If anybody remembers flying, remember in the before, and they would sort of talk about if you're traveling with children or people needing assistance, always put your own air mask on before you're helping someone else. And that is something that right now is like, we need to make sure we take care of our own needs so that we can then be present and support the ones we love and the rest of our community. And so that, and I keep reminding myself of that, of like, no, I can't go there. I don't have the capacity for that. And then practicing saying that out loud to people. And we live in a time where a year ago, I would have felt guilty or like I had to apologize if I had to say no and I didn't have capacity. And I would have felt like people were judging me if I didn't have the capacity. And the world we live in now, it is so absolutely acceptable that we can be honest with each other and say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, I don't have that capacity right now. And expect that to be greeted with kindness and respect and understanding, because everybody is just functioning with a different level on their plate than what we normally do. Yeah. Anyway, so Zarina and I, we're going to keep practicing the
Can I
Noga.
chime in?
Yes, please do.
Can I
Amy.
chime in on the Noga? Because I think that's kind of in the whole topic of what gives me strength or what gives one strength. That whole thing about living within limits is really related to you know, a lot of the questions about what to make, what not to make, what to do, you know, decisions that we make as humans, either as individuals or as a society. And so the, you know, the ability to, you know, to practice that no is also about the bigger picture and setting limits in terms of will we continue to subsidize fossil fuels, et cetera? All these things, that these big decisions that we also have to make. So it resonates out there. Yeah. And I think that sometimes that can give you strength, is being able to just like set the limits in your own life. I love the theme, actually, the whole what gives us strength. And I just think that, like, you know, since we're all in our little boxes here in our insides, and obviously like going outside, that gives me strength. So today I went outside and I had a bike ride for a couple hours in the sunshine. When it happens, when there's sun, or when there's like a good part of, like a little part of the day you can go outside, we're really fortunate here that we can actually go outside and enjoy it. Not everybody necessarily has that luxury, but I think I would just encourage people, like, nature. Go get some nature. And also just learning to be okay in your solitude and being alone, and kind of finding ways to really like comfort yourself with yourself. Like, I think that, like, you know, having some handwork, that gives me a lot of strength to just be able to have something that I can do where I can just like, it's kind of self-soothing. You know, it's like, but I'm also making socks. Sorry, but it just in a practical way. I think that's something that can give one strength. And also cooking, if you get blues, like make a stew.
All of those things are taking care of ourselves, right? And I think a piece of this that I'm not sure if it's been underscored enough, but it's evident to me, is within all of this, it's taking care of ourselves, but then we're taking care of our community, and we're taking care of each other, and how that is that a piece of that community accountability and giving us strength is having that, being able to care and nurture others. You know, food is always a good piece for that. I would love to, because our time is getting to be very tight, so I'd love to do a rapid fire round. We need a term for it because it's not a round table, round screen of, do you have a project or something that you are thinking about for the months ahead that is giving you strength or excitement and enthusiasm right now, that is kind of a new learning project or tangent? Zarina is nodding furiously. So Zarina, do you want to go first?
Okay, sure. Why not, since you asked? Yes, I ended the guild with making sure the last month, part of the homework was for everybody to gather their plants and, you know, dry them flat and all their flowers and everything now in the fall. And I've done that too. So I've got bundles of flowers and leaves and everything. So I'm really looking forward to continuing the whole dye process in the winter as well, on a small scale, you know, on the kitchen stove. So I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic. Janie, how about you? Have you got a winter project that you are dreaming up that's inspiring you right now?
Well, there's more than one, but the one that really comes to mind is something I've been sort of a little bit reluctant to put out is a more intensive fish skin leather offering virtually, and going into all of the depths and other things that are connected to salmon skin leather, fish skin leather making, different ways of working with it, different techniques, making your own tools. So it's something that is, you know, bits of it are things that I've already been doing, but I haven't pulled it all together into one course. And so I'm excited and terrified to do that because, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, who's going to want to sign up for that? It's like, it's such a commitment. And, you know, I have commitment, fear of commitment. 8 weeks? What? So, but I want to do it. It really gives me energy. You know, if I silence those voices and then just go ahead with it. So I'm hoping to do that starting January.
That's exciting.
Thanks.
Thanks. Lori, what are you all inspired about coming up?
When Amy just talked about being outside today in the sun, I was like, oh, I got to get outside. And it was a bit later, but so I ended up putting on my bike helmet or my bike light so I could be outside. I've been collecting all of the leaves and the figs and the dirt that has gathered all along the side of the alley here, because my daughter moved out. She's 20 and she's got a house with a bunch of other young, you know, first timers out of the house. And I want to teach them how to grow food. Right.
Nice.
And so, you know, you're talking about community. Our community is outside the door as well. So when we're actually feeling, you know, a little on our own, we just go outside. And we're with nature and we, you know, to really dive into that relationship more that really nourishes us. So growing food, preparing, thinking about that, the seed saving, how do we put the garden to bed? How do we, you know, make sure that all the insects can be laying their eggs, putting the leaves in the right place and not carting them off with the city. And, you know, just, I'm excited to keep sharing that kind of knowledge so that we're walking in a good way and that all the creatures can be here with us. And time permitting, I've been talking about this for many years, so I'm hoping to create a plant calendar, a perpetual plant calendar, not another book, but an actual calendar. So I may see if I can actually start that this year. So outside and, you know, the inward stuff as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lori.
So
Sarah, what's your winter excitement?
Yeah, I have a few. I have a few as well, but the one I'll share, Sharon, I'm sure I know you're doing this too, but I'm building a loom. So it's a Salish style loom, and I like cut the trees down, although I'm also using some store-bought lumber, but just a little bit. So, and then I've been spinning, thanks to Earth Hand Cleaners, I've been spinning Bluebell's fleece for 2 years. And now I'm like so close to being ready to weave on my homemade loom with fiber that I know the origins of.
Well, let's have weaving dates by Zoom from our studios this winter.
Great.
That's awesome, Sarah. Yeah. How about you, Amy? What are your winter excitements that have got you ready to roll?
It's all too exciting. Just too many projects, too much excitement. But I will say that what I feel is important for me in terms of an organizing project is to create regular studio hours. So to have some sort of disciplined, like a regularity in the week or like times of the day, because I am very erratic and I find I'll do things here and there and all over the place, but I'm interested in like doing a little bit of regularity, studio hours, production time. I'm not sure when in the day, like I still haven't decided, but that's my project, is to sort of just nail myself down for it's not structure. That's my project.
Yeah, that's great. I like it. I think that's really smart. I learned years ago, if I don't put studio in a blank box in my calendar, then I end up giving it away for meetings and other stuff. So yeah.
I've really appreciated it about the Guild, and so I want to continue with that.
Awesome, that's good. I'm glad it inspired you for structure. That's what we all need in these times. Well, everyone, we're at our 9:30 time, or 1 hour that we've been talking, and this was just lovely. We could do this for another hour, but then it would be past my bedtime and Janie's bedtime, at least. Many others.
Pajama party.
Yeah, I want to just say thank you to meet with me and join in with this, and to be game to pilot the guilds and kind of try out how do we do what we do online, and then to be here and talk about it, to share with Heart of the City folks. So have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see all of you sometime soon in Realsies, I hope, but also I'll see you on the interwebs.
Sharon, thank you for the opportunity to share with our community in this way as Guild instructors as well, and all the work you do behind the scenes, making it happen, making it possible.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been interesting, right? Like everything we do, there's always things to learn from, and there's always things to kind of like, oh, I'd never considered where these opportunities could go and what could be a possibility. And it's been really exciting to just see how these things can shape up, and yeah, finding the silver linings and things, right? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And you're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Oh my gosh, that was such a fascinating conversation.
Rapid fire.
Land and connection to land all over the internet on this very beautiful day when I'm sure we all want to be outside. Again, a reminder, if you have questions, to put them into the chat box, and I'll relay them to Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, and all the artists. That was such a fascinating conversation about.
We could have talked for a few hours, as you could tell. I kept watching my time and thinking, okay, we got to. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. What a really interesting group of people, and the different areas that they were working on, and the connection to the land through birds, through fish, salmon, through the fibers, and different kinds of plants. I found it really fascinating, and also fascinating about the conversation about being on the internet and connecting through the internet, where you're land-based artists working with the land, and that kind of irony of you're land-based artists, but here you are connecting through the internet, and the positiveness around that, and people talking about that really great experience. So I'm the one question that I didn't have a lot of questions. I just found it really interesting. Well, the whole notion of the Guild, was that developed in response to the pandemic, or was okay?
Yeah, it was really, it was like, how do we continue sharing what we love doing, and how do we inspire others to kind of do that work themselves? And our group classes, when we're meeting in person, are usually quite small anyway. And so I thought, well, can we do small learning groups? And what would it look like if we just had that opportunity for a little bit more commitment than just like one-off drop in, hey, it's like open knitting time online, we'll be there Tuesday nights, but have something where people were paying a small stipend that would support the artist. As an organization, we were really lucky to get BC Arts Council resiliency funds. So we didn't have to, as an organization, worry about covering what would come from our earned revenue, but I still wanted to figure out how do we support artists and have stipends going to the artists for doing the work that they're already doing. And to also that concept of having a structure that is really, you know, when we are used to it and we thrive on it and it's taken away, I keep thinking of it as being like an off-leash dog that's suddenly like, wow, just like racing all over the dog park, and I don't know which side of the park to go to next. So having those kind of structured check-in times. So we did this as a pilot. We had, I think, about 12 different guilds. The last 2 are running. So yeah, that was just the 5 instructors, but we had some people taught multiples, and I think in total we had 11 or 12 guilds. And it was $25 a month. So the 3-month guilds were $75. And that basically Earth Hand just acted as kind of we advertised, put it up on our website, people could register, and then that money just was, however many people registered, that money went straight to the artist facilitating. And it's so below what an artist would normally make with teaching a class. So I was really clear with all of the skill holders that I wasn't asking them to teach a class as much as just how could they share what they were already doing in their daily practice and be online with that kind of every 2 weeks. Well, this is what I'm seeing in the world around me now. And here, let me show you how I'm processing this fiber, for instance. So it is a stipend for the artists as a cash honoraria, but it's also a commitment from the participants. And the really amazing piece of it that I found was in many ways, there's more reciprocity involved in the online guilds than with a class, in that participants have to be somewhat autonomous of getting their own materials together, of, you know, provide a list of here are things to look for or whatever, but that they have to hold up a little bit more on their own. And like the Fiber Guild, what I'm doing, we have 1 session left, is I'll have a PowerPoint or even just like share the Google Photos that I've been taking of, this is what I'm seeing in the garden right now for these 3 plants. And participants are going out and finding the plants and investigating their own environments and taking their own photos to share. And, you know, we've got somebody down in Corvallis, I've got a couple of people in Nelson, and we've got this much larger bioregion that we're discussing and learning about together about, you know, is this fireweed? Well, it's a different type of fireweed. That's cool. And look, it looks like it's much further along and it's kind of wintering than where our plants are. So we're kind of all collectively learning together. And that's been a really beautiful piece. And I'm also, the other really exciting thing I'm seeing evidence of is elders being assisted to having community support to be on Zoom. So, you know, I have a friend who's a linguist and works with the Katzie Nation, and she now has regular calls on Zoom to do some of the language work that she's doing with Susan. And there's an elder from the Cowichan language group who is in the salmon, Gifts from the Salmon Guild that Janie is teaching and I'm participating in. So, you know, I'm seeing evidence of elders being able to access the internet in ways that are new. And it's just becoming a little bit more accessible and normal practice for us to be able to gather that way.
Yeah, and I think that ties into the question that we have from Haley. What was the biggest lesson you learned about teaching online?
Well, for some people it's really challenging, for others it's easier. I really like leading from the place of just asking questions, and I don't, very, very seldom do I put myself forward as being an expert in anything. So I like leading from the place of just asking the first questions, but we're all asking questions together. And I think for teaching online, you know, teaching in quotations there, that being adaptable and being in a place of we're all students in this together and everybody is on a journey, and some of us are just further along on that journey, but we can still be learning from people who are just starting. And that's a really beautiful piece. And I think for me, you know, when I was listening to the conversation and what gives us strength, this notion of taking care of ourselves and learning something that is a self-sustaining act is crucial, and it gives us something to look forward to and to ponder and to think about and to sort of get excited about, and then going on that journey of, if you want to learn something, who can you find that can be sharing with you, and can you facilitate, because if you want to learn it, probably others do as well, and can you facilitate others coming together to just have a regular group, whether it's online or meeting in a park somewhere. Maybe you're learning how to sew buttons on your shirts because it's been years since you've had to thread a needle. Like, I don't think it needs to be big or grandiose, but you just start somewhere and then one step leads to the next. And that's how any journey begins, right?
Yeah, and there were so many beautiful things that were said. And, you know, one of the ones that I wrote down was being human and not being a teacher. I found that really fascinating.
Yeah.
And the role of the Guild as a place of teaching, learning, sharing, supporting, and being social with each other. And that they really fulfill that need to be connected with each other. I found that really, really fascinating.
Sarah made the comment, I think, about people brought their hearts. And I really appreciated that, because it's something I've noticed in the guilds I'm leading, as well as the guilds I'm participating in, is just that check-in of like, how has your week been? Are you doing okay? Has that been, you know, how did that situation at work go? So it's this new way of how we're gathering. And I've got to say, I'm finding it actually more, this is weird, but I'm finding it more relaxing to be on a Zoom group call with kind of a circle of people than I am in physical real time right now. I've had a couple of instances where I've had kind of social gatherings, and at the end I've realized I'm exhausted, like the talking through a mask and this constant physical awareness that we need to have now of how am I, you know, oh, let me back up, or I need to pass by you, like that extra layer of navigating we're having to do around physical distancing when we're in a group together is challenging, and trying to read people's expressions when you're only seeing eyes. So I'm actually finding the Zoom time is far more uplifting than I would have expected, and in-person time has been more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. You use the term gathering, which is such an interesting word, and it has a lot of different meaning in that. And I think back to, my attending the Métis evening at the Aboriginal Friendship Center. And one of the things that I learned there was they don't refer to those events as events or dances. They refer to them as gatherings. And which I think is a really beautiful metaphor. And that really captures, I think, the spirit of what's going on here, is that people are gathering together and sharing with each other what they're learning, how they're feeling. And the lady at the Métis Center also said the same thing. People come in and it's really important for them to be able to share with each other what their week has been like. So even before they get up and start dancing and doing the other activity, it's a time for people to share how they're feeling, the difficulties they've had that week. Maybe their granddaughter had a birthday or something like that. So that notion of being human together and not coming at it from a place of, now I'm teaching you, and but it is a gathering. It's a circle, and I think that's really lovely. And I've had some experiences myself where we've had gatherings around my son's birthday, and we were cooking food together. So we were cooking cookies that we had cooked with him as a child that he loved.
Oh.
And so we were making them here at home, and he was making them in Ottawa. And so there's this shared experience, and we were just sitting around chatting, and it was just like old times, where except they weren't in the kitchen physically. They were there through the monitor, through the Zoom. And the other fascinating part to me was also the connection to the international level.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's been a surprise. And I've had lots of people that have reached out and, emailed and said they're so excited because they had, found Earth Hand online, and they used to live here and they've moved away. And so they still got our newsletter just so that they could kind of see what was going on, but they lamented not being able to participate in things. And now they can participate. So that's really exciting. And we've had a few people that, you think about where you're gaining, but also the people that you're losing, the people who I haven't seen for a while that normally I would be seeing their faces. And there's a few people in particular who have had technical challenges. And I think as this is going on, they're figuring that out. So it's, how can we support each other in making sure that people can get access to being online, or like you're setting up, as you said, kind of the viewing rooms and the places to be able to be. So, we've got the winter ahead of us here. You think about how far we've come in pivoting with this in the last 8 months. We've got a really solid foundation. I think there's going to be more opportunity and more kind of ways that we can support getting others online and having access. That's my hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I because I live just a few blocks away from it, and I often walk down there with Savannah, who loves to walk around the neighborhood. I don't quite know what the term is. Your site down.
Oh, Trillium. Yeah.
Park. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think my association with you guys is really related to that piece of land and the work that you're doing there. This is kind of, no, it's not off the topic, but because we're talking about online, but what are you able to do through the pandemic in terms of still using that space and keeping people connected to that particular learning center that you've got there?
A part of what has been happening with the Fiber Guild is where I'm online and I'm sharing pictures, and then the people that do live locally are going and harvesting the plants that I'm saying, okay, so this is here. So people are going and gathering what I'm saying to go look for, and are going and doing the work themselves. At Means of Production, we ended up having food, what did we call them? Our food forest foster stewards, that people that just kind of adopted, that already had worked with us and were familiar with the site and knew the area and lived nearby and could take their own tools, going and doing the weeding and the tending and the soil building and such around all of the fruit crops at Means of Production. And this was one of the things that even once we got initially to the point where we could have stewardship sessions again, I felt overwhelmed by the level of requirements for the distancing and the cleaning of the tools and like all of that overwhelmed me. And it was just like, okay, I'm not able to go there. It was easier for me to go and put my head down and do the gardening work on my own, and then have other kind of satellite groups that are doing it. So I'm kind of figuring out how to actually almost take stewardship into the guild model. We did have a online weaving time with some of the stewards where we could all be online, and everybody had picked up their daylily and their little packets I left tied to the shed of their weaving materials. And it gave us a chance to just be together on Zoom. And I taught a few basic weaving techniques to people so that they had their materials and we were all weaving together while we could just talk about our experiences of when we were in the garden on our own. And so, I'm figuring that out. Means of Production, both gardens in particular, but certainly Means of Production, I've seen way more people present and discovering the park. Like those wild tended spaces have become so much more used and so much more needed by people. And so the work we've been doing there has been recognized by community members in a whole new way. And it's also changed more at MOP than at Trillium, how I'm doing the gardening, and that just thinking about, well, what are the sight lines, and making sure if somebody is walking up that path, can you see through the bamboo so that you're not kind of rounding a corner and suddenly right up beside somebody that you don't know, which just feels freaky. Not as bad now, but April, May, June, it was all very tentative. So anyway, you know, we're figuring it out. The preschoolers are back there, which is great. And, you know, the notion of gathering and having this kind of time and accountability. There's a 2 o'clock recovery group that meets at Trillium every day. And I've really, you know, so they obviously can't meet wherever they normally can. And just this notion of, you know, there's community accountability of people who are there and present for each other around, you know, a common reason, and sharing stories with each other. And I'm seeing way more of that happen at Trillium now, of different user groups that are coming and using the space.
I just realized that the word gathering has another whole level that I hadn't thought about. I had thinking in terms of the gathering of people, but as you were talking, I was realizing that the other term, of course, is gathering fabric or gathering plants. Or
yes.
So there's that term really applies. That word really applies quite incredibly to the work that you're doing. I've known you now for about 10, 12, 13 years. And the work that you're doing in the community. This isn't exactly right on the topic of what we're talking about, but I am really interested in, and if you could talk about the impact that the work that you've been doing and how you've seen the change over the last 10 years. My sense is that it's been really growing, and that now going onto the internet has added a whole nother level to that. So
yeah, it's funny, you know, I remember in 2007 feeling like I was either going to need to go back to school and do my master's so I could get somewhere in my career, which I was really loath to do because I'm not a school person. And I also didn't want the debt, was just overwhelming. But I realized, I felt like this was kind of Jeff Walltown, was how I would just kind of dismissively refer to it. There was just so much conceptual photography as kind of what was seen, and my work wasn't really understood. There didn't seem to be a place for it in what I was doing. And it was finding Means of Production Garden and meeting some of my now kind of colleagues and champions with Park Board that introduced me to Means of Production, Jill Weaving. And that's been a real game changer. And it's so exciting now to see how much, you know, I've had this full circle where somebody will tell me that they've learned how to make rope from somebody who learned how to make rope from somebody. And I know that somebody learned how to make rope from somebody else that I taught, you know, like I can kind of do this kind of eight layers of learning and sharing. And yeah, that's really exciting to see how prevalent that notion is now of being able to find materials from the land and work with them and use our hands to make things that are useful and beautiful and nurturing. That's, I think, much more evident than what I saw ages back, and how much of that is me and how much of that is like the many people, like Carmen, Rosine, of course, Still Moon has been doing a lot of this work as well for many, many years. So it's just, what is interesting is what I've always done that felt perhaps a little oddball for some, a little quirky, suddenly is completely relevant. And that's a piece from the pandemic of recognizing that these skills of knowing how to make with what we've got at hand, how to kind of look at around our own world, whether it's our small little apartment or the alley behind where we live and find some things that we can actually make from or craft from. That's humanity at its baseline. It really, it's, I don't know, it's food for the soul.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to me how this has come from my own experience also, as an artist, that it was always working on the margins and outside of the mainstream. And that's actually can be a very nurturing place, because you are not inside the castle, and you can do the work that you want to do, and you feel compelled to do it. And then it starts to have an impact, and the way and the ripples of the work that you're doing then spread out. And then all of a sudden you find that the work that you're doing is no longer on the margins, it's actually at the center. So how culture and cultural politics shift in response to things that come from the margins, the wild places,
Yeah.
where you've had the opportunity to do that. And I think that's that also has happened because, here in British Columbia, we're also at the margins from central Canada, and we're not as influenced by, the cultural politics in Ontario and Quebec. And so, we are in our own wild place, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of innovative work that's really come out of British Columbia, because we have been on the margins. And there's a really nice comment here from Monique. Sharon's work and devotion to nurturing connections gives me hope for the future. I believe land-based crafts will save us.
Oh, that's going to make me cry.
And the salt will go into the earth and will help grow the plants.
Yeah. Well, it was funny listening to the talk again. And I remember being struck by this, and it was like, okay, stay on task, Sharon, stay on task. But that opportunity of when we all come together, and the things that you don't know are even possibility that suddenly present themselves, like hearing Sarah talk about the acorns, and that was one thing. But then when Lori dug deeper in that and sort of asked about the toilet bowl, but was talking about the water, and then getting into the tannins and the flushing. And I immediately was like, well, those are the tannins that Janie needs for tanning the leather. So, when you bring this group of people together, and you've got two people with this running parallel in what their needs and their supplies are, and then you've got somebody like Lori, who's the catalyst that just asks the question that kind of opens that up. And those things happen every time. I find there is a group of people that come together that are interested in sharing and giving what they know and what they have, and that that bounty that will appear, that will come as if from nowhere, just from people being generous and sharing what they know and sharing their ideas and their skills. And then the reciprocity, the piece of that comes back, is again when you find out that what you've taught somebody, they've taken and they've taught somebody else, and you sort of get that that rush or that joy of seeing somebody else's excitement in taking off with skills that you've shared. So it really becomes that fuel that gets one through dark days, that gets through the dark times and the hard times, because not every day is easy. There's lots of tough struggles going on, and when we can have those moments that we can enjoy and celebrate and hold tight.
And what's also really interesting to me is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's women that are providing this leadership of connecting to the land. And I certainly see that within this group, but maybe I'm wrong. But if you could talk.
It's every there's everything. There's exceptions to every rule, and every rule is made to be whatever. We can sort of break that down. I do see a lot of women that are invested in this work. I also do see men, not as often. It's always really exciting when there are men that that step forward, that are really embracing it. But don't know what that is, if it is tied to that sense of nurturing that, you know, as girls, we're supposed to be nurturing others. Those are pieces that are a part of our Mother Earth is the mother of us all. And as women, we kind of hold that and carry that nurturing forward. I don't know.
And the world, I mean, again, for me, and I could be wrong, but you know, I make associations with weaving with women and those skill sets that were done within the home
Mm.
as being something that were primarily done by women. Now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, you know what? Every culture is different. It's I've been reading a lot on Scottish and Nordic weaving lately because I have a new loom. That's going to be my winter excitement that keeps me focused, is working on a new loom that David has made for me. And what's interesting is how many cultures traditionally have had weaving as a at-home activity, but then when it became something that was done for marketability, it became something that men took over as an income stream. But there's many places, Scotland being one of them, where it was done as a sort of added household revenue that women would run. And you know, it's tied to just the practicality of the jobs that you can pick up and put down when you are around a fire and cooking meals and tending children. So there's like that making of cloth and spinning of cloth would be the kind of thing that could often be done while you're kind of doing 12 different things at the same time.
And I also was interested in the how you said that there was 12 guilds that you've got, and so when this was put together, were these all women that were connected to your organization, or did you reach others and invite them in to establish?
No, I reached out to people that were already working with us, in big part because you know, it's not like it's a paid gig per se, in that it's such a small stipend. Like, you know, maybe like, I think for Zarina, for instance, she had 10 people in her guild. So it was like $750 is what Zarina was paid for those 6 online times. And there's hours and hours that would go into the prep that she would do for those online times. So it's hard at this point to be bringing in people to lead that I haven't had time to work with in person, that I haven't had time for them to have not had time to kind of know what Earth Hand is all about and how we roll, whatever. So really what I did was just kind of put out calls to the people that were teaching with us, and that I also had intentions of teaching for us this year. So what we ended up doing was people that were supposed to teach classes for us that were canceled. I had, I think, just about everybody that was supposed to teach for us ended up creating some YouTube content. So we paid them a stipend to create some content that would just kind of live on our Earth Hand YouTube channel. And then as I got thinking about, well, what would be guilds, what would make sense, and what were pieces that made sense for online, and thinking about who, you know, what we could offer and who the people were in our community that would be kind of well set to be hosting that and facilitating that. So, and there's lots more guilds to come. So our year end is November 30th. So everything is just kind of focused on that for right now for me. And then in December, we'll have new programs and things coming out for the new year.
Thank you so much, Sharon. This has really been a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed the video and the conversation that you guys are having. And, you know, I've always been a great admirer of your work and the work that you're doing on the land in community. And it's been a really important thing to have in our community, that there's people like yourself working on the land and getting us connected to the land. And I wish you all the best in the future with this work, and both online and on land. And
I like that. I'm so going to use that, Terry. Nice and pithy.
and there were so many wise things that were said in the gathering of the women that you had within that circle. I found it very inspiring. And it was lovely to see Amy again. I do remember Amy from the 1990s. I do remember Amy riding her bicycle through the neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
It was lovely to see, hear about Serena and the work that she's doing. She's a homeschooler, and that
she's fantastic.
That was really interesting to me, and how she's doing that and working with that at home. And so thank you very much for the work that you just did for us at the festival, and thank you very much for the work that you're doing in the community. The kind of stuff that you're doing is really, really, really important. It keeps us connected to the land and to the waters and to nature that sustains us. It's really vital and very important work. So thank you very much, Sharon.
And thank you for everything you're doing, Terry. I'm Mutual Admiration Club. I have huge respect for you and Savannah, all the folks that make Heart of the City Festival happen. So thank you for being brave to go to new places and take us online for it this year. The festival is much bigger than the little guilds. You've done the hard work.
It is hard work, that's for certain. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us online. And again, thank you for Sharon and the work that she's doing. Thank you to all the artists, and thank you to all the team in the control room, Kimmett and Robert, Theo, and all our digital people. Lalia, thank you for everyone to help realize this project, Teresa. And we wish you all the best. And now I hope you get outside and enjoy some of this sun that we're enjoying today. There's new light and there's new hope that's coming. And I'm not just talking about the light that's coming down on us today. It's been a good day, I think, for us all.
Yeah.
And if you say, as we say in Cantonese, Jai Jian, have a good day, and thank you, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you, Sharon.
Bye.